Still my soul will sing your praise unending. at the mention of the name, King of Majesty. There's no power in heaven or any who can stand before the power and the presence of the great I am. The great I am. The great I am. The great I am. The mountains shake before you, the demons run and flee at the mention of the name. It's never too late. It's not too late. It's not too late for you. I have a plan for you. I have a plan for you. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be full of me. Open up your heart and let me serve Christ in church today. Open up your heart and let me. Open up your heart and let me. Open up your heart and let me. Church, answer this to my heart. Into my heart. Into my heart. Come into my heart, Lord Jesus. Come in today. Come into the city. Come into my heart, Lord Jesus.
Let us stand for the Shema. You hear the Lord calling Israel and calling those that are part of the church and calling those who would be His. And He calls them to hear. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God. The Lord is one. So we'll stand and do the Shema together. I don't know what that means.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Baruch Shem Kavod Malkutu Le'olam Vayeh. Blessed be the name of the glory of His kingdom forever and ever. Ve'afta et Adonai Elohecha b'kol navavecha uvkol nafshecha uvkol meodecha. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. V'hayu hadarim ha'elah asher anoki mitzvaka hayom ala vavecha. And these words which I command you today shall be upon your heart. Vishinantam levanecha v'debarta bam v'shechka v'evtecha uvlecha v'derech uvshakbecha uvkamecha. You shall teach them thoroughly to your children, and you shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk on the road, when you lie down, and when you rise. Uvshatam le'olot al-yadecha v'hayu le'totafot im inecha. You shall bind them as a sign upon your hand, and they shall be for a reminder between your eyes. Uktavtam al-muzozot v'techa uv'sharecha. And you shall write them upon the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with your Torah, and has given us the light of life, in Jesus our Messiah, the Prince of Peace.
It says, and the Spirit of the Lord will rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and power, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. And you know that's in reference to Messiah, Yeshua, Mashiach, our Lord and our Savior. May his light shine upon us today. Light the candles. Torah reading, we're finishing Book of Numbers today. The Torah reading is called Messiah, and it has to do with the wandering or the traveling, the setting out. Messiah, the places that Israel set out from. Beginning in Numbers chapter 33, going through the end of verse Numbers, and we hear Moshe going through the list and explaining a little bit about our entry into the Promised Land.
These are the journeys of the sons of Israel, by which they came out from the land of Egypt by their armies, under the leadership of Moses and Aaron. And Moses recorded their starting places according to their journeys by the command of the Lord, and these are their journeys according to their starting places. And they journeyed from Ramesses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month. On the next day after the Passover, the sons of Israel started out boldly in the sight of all the Egyptians. While the Egyptians were burying all their firstborn whom the Lord had struck down among them, the Lord had also executed judgments on their gods. Then the sons of Israel journeyed from Ramesses and camped in Succoth. And they journeyed from Succoth and camped in Etham, which is on the edge of the wilderness. And they journeyed from Etham and turned back to Pi-hahiroth, which faces Baal-zephon, and they camped before Migdol. And they journeyed from before Hieroth and passed through the midst of the sea into the wilderness. And they went 3 days' journey in the wilderness of Etham and camped at Marah. And they journeyed from Marah and came to Elam. And in Elam there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they camped there. And they journeyed from Elam and camped by the Red Sea. And they journeyed from the Red Sea and camped in the wilderness of Sin. And they journeyed from the wilderness of Sin and camped at Dophkah. And they journeyed from Dophkah and camped at Alush. And they journeyed from Alush and camped in Rephidim. Now it was there that the people had no water to drink. And they journeyed from Rephidim and camped in the wilderness of Sinai. And they journeyed from the wilderness of Sinai and camped at Kibroth Hattavah. And they journeyed from Kibroth Hattavah and camped at Hazeroth. And they journeyed from Hazeroth and camped at Rithmah. And they journeyed from Rithmah and camped at Rimmon Perez. And they journeyed from Rimmon Perez and camped at Libnah. And they journeyed from Libnah and camped at Rissah. And they journeyed from Rissah and camped in Kehelath. And they journeyed from Kehelath and camped at Mount Sheper. And they journeyed from Mount Sheper and camped at Heradah. And they journeyed from Heradah and camped at Machaloth. And they journeyed from Machaloth and camped at Tahath. And they journeyed from Tahath and camped at Terah. And they journeyed from Terah and camped at Mithkah. And they journeyed from Mithkah and camped at Hashmonah. And they journeyed from Hashmonah and camped at Moseroth. And they journeyed from Moseroth and camped at Ben-Jaakan. And they journeyed from Ben-Jaakan and camped at Hor-Hagadid. And they journeyed from Hor-Haggad and camped at Hothbahah. And they journeyed from Hothbahah and camped at Abronah. And they journeyed from Abronah and camped at Ezion-Geber. And they journeyed from Ezion-Geber and camped in the wilderness of Zin, that is, Kadesh. And they journeyed from Kadesh and camped at Mount Hor at the edge of the land of Edom. Then Aaron the priest went up to Mount Hor at the command of the Lord and died there in the 40th year after the sons of Israel had come from the land of Egypt, on the first day in the 5th month. And Aaron was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor. Now the Canaanite, the king of Arad, who lived in the Negev, in the land of Canaan, heard of the coming of the sons of Israel. Then they journeyed from Mount Hor and camped at Zalmonah. And they journeyed from Zalmonah and camped at Punon. And they journeyed from Punon and camped at Oboth. And they journeyed from Oboth and camped at Ai Abarim at the border of Moab. And they journeyed from Ayim and camped at Dibon-Gad. And they journeyed from Dibon-Gad and camped at Almon-Diblathaim. And they journeyed from Almon-Diblathaim and camped in the mountains of Abarim before Nebo. And they journeyed from the mountains of Abarim and camped in the plains of Moab by the Jordan opposite Jericho. And they camped by the Jordan from Beth Jehushmoth as far as Abel Shittim in the plains of Moab. Then the Lord spoke to Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan opposite Jericho, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, When you cross over the Jordan into the land of Canaan, then you shall drive out all the inhabitants of the land from before you and destroy all their figured stones, and destroy all their molten images, and demolish all their high places. And you shall take possession of the land and live in it, for I have given the land to you to possess it. And you shall inherit the land by lot according to your families. To the larger you shall give more inheritance, and to the smaller you shall give less inheritance. Wherever the lot falls to anyone, that shall be his. You shall inherit according to the tribes of your fathers. But if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land from before you, then it shall come about that those whom you let remain of them will become as pricks in your eyes and as thorns in your sides, and they shall trouble you in the land in which you live. And it shall come about that as I plan to do to them, so I will do to you. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Command the sons of Israel, and say to them, When you enter the land of Canaan, this is the land that shall fall to you as an inheritance, even the land of Canaan according to its borders. Your southern sector shall extend from the wilderness of Zin along the side of Edom, and your southern border shall extend from the end of the Salt Sea eastward. Then your border shall turn direction from the south to the ascent of Akarbim, and continue to Zin, and its termination shall be to the south of Kadesh Barnea, and it shall reach Hazaradah, and continue to Asmon. And the border shall turn direction from Asmon to the brook of Egypt, and its termination shall be at the sea. As for the western border, you shall have the great sea, that is the coastline. This shall be your west border. And this shall be your north border. You shall draw your borderline from the great sea to Mount Hor. You shall draw a line from Mount Hor to the Lebo Hamath, and the termination of the border shall be at Zedad. And the border shall proceed to Ziphron, and its termination shall be at Hazar Enan. This shall be your north border. For your eastern border you shall also draw a line from Hazar Enan to Shephem. And the border shall go down from Shephan to Riblah on the east side of Ain. And the border shall go down and reach to the slope of the east side of the sea of Chinnereth. And the border shall go down to the Jordan, and its termination shall be at the Salt Sea. This shall be your land according to its borders all around. So Moses commanded the sons of Israel, saying, This is the land that you are to apportion by lot among you as a possession, which the Lord has commanded to give to the 9.5 tribes. For the tribe of the sons of Reuben have received theirs according to their fathers' households, and the tribe of the sons of Gad according to their fathers' household, and the half tribe of Manasseh have received their possession. The 2.5 tribes have received their possession across the Jordan opposite Jericho, eastward toward the sunrising. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, These are the names of the men who shall apportion the land to you for inheritance: Eleazar the priest and Joshua the son of Nun. And you shall take one leader of every tribe to apportion the land for inheritance. And these are the names of the men of the tribe of Judah: Caleb the son of Jephunneh. And of the tribe of the sons of Simeon, Samuel the sons of Ammihud. Of the tribe of Benjamin, Elidad the son of Chislon. And of the tribe of the sons of Dan, a leader, Buki the son of Jogli. Of the sons of Joseph, Of the tribe of the sons of Manasseh, a leader, Haniel the son of Ephod. And of the tribe of the sons of Ephraim, a leader, Kemuel the son of Shiftan. And of the tribe of the sons of Zebulun, a leader, Elizaphan the son of Parnach. And of the tribe of the sons of Issachar, a leader, Paltiel the son of Azan. And of the tribe of the sons of Asher, a leader, Ahihud the son of Shelomi. And of the tribe of the sons of Naphtali, a leader, Pedahil the son of Ammihud. These are those whom the Lord commanded to apportion the inheritance to the sons of Israel in the land of Canaan. Now the Lord spoke to Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan opposite Jericho, saying, Command the sons of Israel that they give to the Levites from the inheritance of their possession cities to live in, and you shall give to the Levites pasture lands around these cities. And the city shall be theirs to live in, and their pasture land shall be for their cattle, and for their herds, and for all their beasts. And the pasture lands of the cities, which you shall give to the Levites, shall extend from the wall of the city outward 1,000 cubits around. You shall also measure outside the city on the east side 2,000 cubits, and on the south side 2,000 cubits, and on the west side 2,000 cubits, and on the north side 2,000 cubits, with the city in the center. This shall become theirs as pasture lands for the cities. And the cities which you shall give to the Levites shall be the 6 cities of refuge, which you shall give for the manslayer to flee to, and in addition to them you shall give 42 cities. All the cities which you shall give to the Levites shall be 48 cities, together with their pasture lands. As for the cities which you shall give from the possession of the sons of Israel, you shall take more from the larger, and you shall take less from the smaller. Each shall give some of his cities to the Levites in proportion to his possession, which he inherits. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, and say to them, When you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, then you shall select for yourselves cities to be your cities of refuge, that the manslayer who has killed any person unintentionally may flee there. And the city shall be to you as a refuge from the avenger, so that the manslayer may not die until he stands before the congregation for trial. And the cities which you are to give shall be your 6 cities of refuge. You shall give 3 cities across the Jordan, and 3 cities in the land of Canaan. They are to be cities of refuge. These 6 cities shall be for refuge for the sons of Israel, and for the alien, and for the sojourner among them, that anyone who kills a person unintentionally may flee there. But if he struck him down with an iron object so that he died, he is a murderer. The murderer shall surely be put to death. And if he struck him down with a stone in his hand, by which he may die, and as a result he died, he is a murderer. The murderer shall surely be put to death. Or, if he struck him with a wooden object in the hand, by which he may die, and as a result he died, he is a murderer. The murderer shall surely be put to death. The blood avenger himself shall put the murderer to death. He shall put him to death when he meets him. And if he pushed him out of hatred, or threw something at him lying in wait, and as a result he died, or if he struck him down with his hand in enmity, and as a result he died, the one who struck him shall surely be put to death. He is a murderer. The blood avenger shall put the murderer to death when he meets him. But if he pushed him suddenly without enmity, or threw something at him without lying in wait, or with any deadly object of stone, and without seeing it dropped on him, so that he died, while he was not his enemy, nor seeking his injury, then the congregation shall judge between the slayer and the blood avenger according to these ordinances. And the congregation shall deliver the manslayer from the hand of the blood avenger, and the congregation shall restore him to his city of refuge to which he fled, and he shall live in it until the death of the high priest who was anointed with the holy oil. But if the manslayer shall at any time go beyond the border of his city of refuge to which he may flee, and the blood avenger finds him outside the border of his city of refuge, and the blood avenger kills the manslayer, he shall not be guilty of blood, because he should have remained in his city of refuge until the death of the high priest. But after the death of the high priest, the manslayer shall return to the land of his possession. And these things shall be for a statutory ordinance to you throughout your generations in all your dwellings. If anyone kills a person, the murderer shall be put to death at the evidence of witnesses, but no person shall be put to death on the testimony of one witness. Moreover, you shall not take ransom for the life of a murderer who is guilty of death, but he shall surely be put to death. And you shall not take ransom for him who has fled to his city of refuge, that he may return to live in the land before the death of the priest. So you shall not pollute the land in which you are, for blood pollutes the land, and no expiation may be made for the land, for the blood that is shed on it, except by the blood of him who shed it. And you shall not defile the land in which you live, in the midst of which I dwell, for I, the Lord, am dwelling in the midst of the sons of Israel. And the heads of the father's household of the family of the sons of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, of the families of the sons of Joseph, came near and spoke before Moses and before the leaders and the heads of the fathers' households of the sons of Israel. And they said, The Lord commanded my Lord to give the land by lot to the sons of Israel as an inheritance, and my Lord was commanded by the Lord to give the inheritance of Zelophehad our brother to his daughters. But if they marry one of the sons of the other tribes, of the sons of Israel, their inheritance will be withdrawn from the inheritance of our fathers, and will be added to the inheritance of the tribe to which they belong. Thus it will be withdrawn from our allotted inheritance. And when the Jubilee of the sons of Israel comes, then their inheritance will be added to the inheritance of the tribe to which they belong. So their inheritance will be withdrawn from the inheritance of the tribe of our fathers. Then Moses commanded the sons of Israel according to the word of the Lord, saying, The tribe of the sons of Joseph are right in their statements. This is what the Lord has commanded concerning the daughters of Zelophehad, saying, Let them marry whom they wish, only they must marry within the family of the tribe of their father. Thus no inheritance of the sons of Israel shall be transferred from tribe to tribe, for the sons of Israel shall each hold to the inheritance of the tribe of his fathers. And every daughter who comes into possession of an inheritance of any tribe of the sons of Israel shall be wife to one of the family of the tribe of her father, so that the sons of Israel each may possess the inheritance of his fathers. Thus no inheritance shall be transferred from one tribe to another tribe, for the tribes of the sons of Israel shall each hold to his own inheritance, just as the Lord had commanded Moses, so the daughters of Zelophehad did. Mahlah, Tirzah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Noah, the daughters of Zelophehad, married their uncle's sons. They married those from the families of the sons of Manasseh, the sons of Joseph, and their inheritance remained with the tribe of the family of their father. These are the commandments and the ordinances which the Lord commanded to the sons of Israel through Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan opposite Jericho.
There are times where I come to certain places and I stop and I think, what am I doing here? How did I get here? What is going on? There are times I look at our lives and particularly with Craig and I and some of the struggles that we have and I think, why, Lord, what are we doing? why are we here? And is this where we're supposed to be? Is this what we're supposed to be doing? Did we get something wrong somewhere along the journey, you know? Do you ever get to those places? I think we all do. There are places of discouragement for all of us. There are places of challenge for all of us. And I know summer tends to be one of those seasons where we end up getting discouraged. It's a season, and it happens, and it's every year, and it's like it comes up on this one place, and all of a sudden I'm like, what am I doing? And I try to study, and I'm like, Lord, what? And we try to do this, and something comes up, and we try to do that, and something happens, and the distractions, and the complaints, and the difficulties, and the challenges, and it's like there's once in a while that I get up on a Saturday morning, a Sabbath morning, and I think, why am I doing this? And then I have to stop and think, and this is a reality for me. If I gave this up, where would I go? Where would I go? And I'm reminded of when Yeshua spoke to the disciples, and remember there was this time that he had the crowds around him. And I find it interesting that whenever Yeshua had large crowds around him, he said something that was a hardship and a challenge, and a lot of the crowds filtered out and left. I find that an interesting pattern, and one I hadn't really recognized much before recently. And I saw that, and it's like there was a point where people left, and more people left, and more people left, and more people left, and Yeshua looked at the 12, the closest group, and he said to them, so are you going to leave too? And I love, Peter's one of those men that I just absolutely adore, because he's either all the way on or all the way off. And I think a lot of us are like that. And he looked at him, he said, Lord, where do we go? Where else could we go? You have the words of life. Where else could we go? Once having tasted the goodness of God, how do we ever go back? How do we ever go back? As Moses and the people of Israel come to the edge of the land, and they come to the end of their journeyings, which is where we are in Numbers right now, and they're standing on the edge of the land. And Moses is setting up the new leadership. And he is setting them up to enter the promised land. They've been wandering around for a long time. And I can kind of imagine at this place going, okay, now what? Now what? Do you remember the first time the people came to this place, they sent out the spies, and the spies came back with an evil report. Really, it wasn't so evil as much as it was just truthful, with leaving out one little part. Were there giants in the land? Yes, there were. Was it going to be hard? Yes, it was. But was God going to be with them? Yes, He would have been. Yes, He was. And we are at that season even in the calendar system where the tribes are spying out the land. On Tisha B'Av, or the 9th of Av, which is coming up in not this week but the next week, is the historical day. It's the day that it's remembered that the tribes heard the evil report and heard that instead of God's with us, we can do this, out of the mouths of Caleb and Joshua. God's with us. Yes, there's giants, but God's with us. And they heard the evil report. Even in the calendar system, this is that time of looking at the land. Are we going in this time or not? Are we going to keep pushing or not? One of the things that God does for His people is He reminds us. At the very beginning of this portion, before we finish the book of Numbers, it says, here are the stages of the journeys of the Israelites when they came out of Egypt, by the divisions under the leadership of Moses and Aaron. And at the Lord's command, Moses recorded the stages in their journey. And this is their journey by stages. And God goes through this process of reminding. What is he reminding of? He's reminding them of every place they left. He's not reminding them of every place they stopped necessarily. I know that's kind of a different way of looking at it. Because yes, where you leave from is where you stopped. But what he's saying is this is where you leave. This is what you left. Every place they came out of. Have you ever looked at your life and realized you've come out of a lot of places? Come out of a lot of places. In the listing here, there are 42 Masayim. 42 places listed. Now, I know that's not, some people go, numbers, who cares about numbers? I do. You know why? Because God's in the details. And he always has messages in the details that sometimes we miss if we don't notice. If we don't stop long enough to listen and pay attention. There are 42. It's considered a pretty important number in Judaism. Why is that? Because it is 6 times 7. 6 is the number of man. 7 is the number of completion or perfection. 42 is man going to perfection. Man moving to completion. A moving on. And the number 42 represents then the complete presence of the Holy One and the entering into the promise. So here we've got 42 places, 42 stops. I'm not going to go through all of them. You can if you want to. A great word study, a phenomenal word study, in fact, is to go through and read all of them. Look at what the words mean. Look at not just what they mean, but what we have recorded in the history of what happened at each stage. It's an interesting thought. But did you know that we have stages in our lives that correlate to each of these stages? And we go through steps too. There are places God brings us to, and then we kind of sit there for a little bit, and then we come through it and we go to the next part. I don't ever want to get stuck at one of the stages. Sometimes I realize that I've gone around the mountain several times. I feel like I've been at a particular place many, many, many times. But what's interesting is God doesn't repeat in this list. Even though they went around the mountain, they wandered in the same wilderness for 40 years, you got to know they had to have gone past the same places they'd kept before, right? They had to have. The wilderness is big, but it's not that big. But God does not list a single place twice in this list. Why? Because even though it looks like we may be back around the mountain at the same place, we're really not. Because every time, if we will keep walking with God, if we will keep following after the cloud, following after the Spirit of God, God will bring us along. It may not feel like we're getting very far. We may feel like we're going in circles. And sometimes it really comes across that we're going in circles. But if every time we come back to the same place, we're just a little bit farther, we're looking at it from a different angle, we're in a different depth. There's something that happens in inner healing. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't exactly live an idyllic childhood. I can look back on my childhood from the time, if I go just from 7 to birth, I can count 4 major crises. And I mean major crises in my family's life. I can count just from 7 back 2 that were extremely traumatic events for me as a child, that I was an eyewitness to, because I was in the right place at the right time, or the wrong place at the wrong time, whichever you want to say it. So I have had major trauma to be healed from. Trauma causes pain, right? And it causes injury. There's a reason it's called trauma, whether it's a psychological trauma or a physical trauma. It's called trauma because it's a sudden, sharp injury. And it hurts. And sometimes in the process of healing from trauma, you have to go through parts of it again. Or maybe it feels like that anyway. Sometimes when someone's a burn victim and they have to go through skin grafts, you go through many skin grafts to get it all done. And sometimes they have to take off part of what they put on to put a new on because it didn't work as well or whatever. But there's many stages of healing. The people of Israel came out of Egypt. When they came out of Egypt, did they come out happy, healthy, and whole? No, they did not. They came out as slaves, having been abused, having been mistreated, slaves. And they walked and they went, and they got to the Mount Sinai. And it says that in that process, by the time they got to the foot of the mountain, there was not a sick one among them. So from the time they left Egypt to the time they got to the foot of the mountain to meet with God, He had healed all their diseases. But sometimes healing has to be in our mind, in the way we think, in the way we view things. And He took them to this place of total physical healing, of total dependence on Him. He fed them, He nourished them, He gave them water, and they get to the edge of the desert, and the mindset had not been fully changed. Because they didn't see that they were ready to go in. They didn't see that they could depend on God to get them through. All they saw was there's giants in the land. Oh my God, we can't do this. God, we can't do this. And they rebelled again. And they said, oh, we should have been still in the land of Goshen. You notice they often say that. Let's go back to Goshen. Let's go back to Goshen. So I want you to notice something right here at the very beginning when it says they leave. Because here Moses is reminding them of what we've left, where we've come from. And he says, the Israelites set out from Ramesses on the 15th day of the first month. He didn't say Goshen. He said Ramesses. Why? Well, Goshen was where they dwelt with their houses, and there was an area of Goshen that was comfortable for them. Ramesses, however, was a city they built by their sweat and their blood. It was a place of torture for them. Ramesses was part of one of the cities that they had to build. They had to do the work to make it look good for Pharaoh, who was not exactly a good taskmaster. So he wants them to remember, you came from, what did you come from? You came from slavery. You came from hardship. You came from hurt. This is what you came from. And then he goes through and he lists all these places they stopped. Why? Because at each one of these places there's healing for what happened in Ramesses. At each stop there's something God does for them that brings healing. As a survivor, we used to call it that, you know. I used to call it that. I used to say, yep, I'm a survivor. I've survived. And I'm going to survive, and no matter what happens, I will survive. And in fact, that was kind of a theme song, and even one of those stupid games on Facebook where it was like, what's the song of your life, you know? And I was being silly, and I answered the questions, and it came back with, I will survive, and I almost fell off my chair laughing. Well, of course that's my theme song. I've survived, and I will survive. Why will I survive? Because God is with me, not because I'm anybody special, except God is with me, and I will survive. But God wants to take people from survival to something better. It's one thing to survive trauma or abuse. It's another thing to get where you can thrive. Where your life is a joy, not just a survival skill. Where you can laugh. God reminds them, just as He reminds me often, I come from a place of pain. Oh yeah. I do. But don't we all? If we all stop and think about it, we come from places where there has been pain, where there has been hurt, where there's been disappointment, because we live in a fallen world. We live in a world that has not yet seen its Messiah to fullest. So we may come from that, but God brings us through a journey. And at each of the places He brings us, He gives us growth. Sometimes we go back and we feel like we're in the same place, but really we're not exactly in the same place. I'm going through some physical healing right now, working with a physical therapist who's a very gifted healer, and I love her to pieces. And the other day she's working on me, and she says, "Do you have a trauma at about?" And she gives an age, and I'm thinking, probably. Do I remember? I don't know. Because, our bodies hold on to trauma. Our bodies, the organs of our bodies, our muscles, they will hold on to pain memory. And they'll hold on to it well. And sometimes we have to be healed of the memory to have the physical body healing. And so I'm coming back around to another place where there's more healing, a deeper healing, a different healing. Even if it's the same event, even if it's remembering the same thing that I've remembered before or worked through before, or even if I never remember the details of the trauma, we can still remember the details of healing. We can still see what God does and what God is doing. And God is doing a miracle. He's doing a work. He reminded them of Ramesses, the store where the forefathers had built for Pharaoh, by their sweat, their blood, and their tears. He reminded them of Sukkot. And I'm just going to list some of the highlight ones, okay? There's many of them here. But the simple place where the first camping out, the open-air booths, they paused and enjoyed the first meal as free men, and they ate matzah that had been thrown together in haste because they had to leave in haste, right? But at the same time, in those temporary shelters, they were free. And God was with them. And just as we come to a place in the calendar system where we celebrate the festival of Sukkot, we remember the wanderings, we remember the temporary shelters, and we look at the fact that God dwelt with His people during the wanderings, and He still dwells with His people during our wanderings, and the day is coming that He will dwell with His people from His tabernacle in Jerusalem. And it will be glorious. God will dwell with His people again. He takes them to the Sea of Reeds and He reminds them. He reminds them of the salvation He gave them. They camped at the Sea of Reeds overnight, and God parted the water. The Red Sea, the Sea of Reeds. You've heard the story, right? I've heard it said too that it really wasn't the deep Red Sea that they went through. There wasn't that much water there. That it was a marsh, and no big deal, right? And I love the old joke where the little girl's sitting next to an old man who's challenging her Bible stories. And he says, yeah, well, it wasn't really a deep water. It was just the sea. It was just reeds. It was just a marsh. And so they walked through a marsh. Big deal. And the little girl sits there for a second and thinks, wow, what a miracle. What? The whole Egyptian army drowned in a little marsh. God delivered them through the parting of the waters. What's He delivered you from? Sometimes it might help to stop and think. Where was I enslaved to that I'm not enslaved to anymore? Wow. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things. When did I just tabernacle with God and He dwelt with me, and it just was such one of those wonderful moments. God's with me. Yes, I'm free. And we have those times. Remember them. Why? Because we'll need to remember them. We need to be reminded. When did He part the water for you? And you went across on dry land where it looked impossible, but God made the impossible possible. And the enemy that was following you got washed away. When did He do that for you? And I know it wouldn't be a physical form necessarily. But there are times God's done that. I know He's done that in my life. And I know He's done it in yours. And it might help us to stop and remember the stops along the way, the places God took us. Mara, where there were bitter waters. We get there thirsty, we go to drink, and the water's bitter. And we complained. God, I was so thirsty, and I came here expecting. I remember one time the dance troupe was invited to a conference thing, and we'd been to a particular conference put on by the same group before in another place. And it's usually a conference we go to that's absolutely wonderful, and we go in and we just breathe the presence of God. And we love it. And so when they said, we're going to put on a conference over here, can you come and participate with us and be one of our dance troops? And can you? And we were like, yeah, we love what they do. Because the Spirit of God is so powerful with them and so sweet and wonderful. And we go into a place, it's in a different city, it's a different church, and we walk in and go, whoa, the environment here is not the same. Something's not right with this place. Something doesn't feel good. And we start praying and asking and seeking. And we ended up doing spiritual warfare over a church that had been infiltrated by witches, frankly. That's what it boiled down to. There was witchcraft going on the church was not aware of. And here we walk in expecting wonderful breathing water, the fresh move of God. And we walk in and it wasn't so cool. It wasn't so wonderful. It wasn't so sweet. And we had to warfare. We had to go to God and say, God, what do we do? We need your sweet water. And He gave us directives, and we did it. And God did some marvelous things in that place for us, among us, through us. And beautiful declarations and a breaking free for some people happened. But that was kind of a Mara place where we got there and it wasn't so good. We expected it to be, but it wasn't. But God did something. If we'll remember all of these places, if we'll go back and look at it, look at what God's done, look at where we were thirsty and there didn't seem to be any water available and He broke a rock open and water came. Look at the mountain where we sit at the base of it and we look up and it seems like He's gone. But there's all of this smoke and all of this fire and it's uncomfortable. And yet we know we're supposed to be there, but it's not comfortable. Because God isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it's hard and sometimes it's fearful. And remember when we were waiting too long and we gave up and we did go after an idol. We've all had those times too. And if we'll stop and we'll remember these times and we get to each of these and God shows them what you left. You left that idol behind at the mountain and you followed me into the desert. I've given you water. I've given you quail. I've given you bread. He reminds them even of Kadesh, where they cowered in fear at the report of the 10 spies and the nerves were lost. Does He ever remind you of a time where you came right up to the edge of the promise and you got scared and backed off? I have a few times, I've been there. He wants us to remember that we've gone through things so that we can remember that He will bring us to more and to better. Where He has been big and strong for us in the past, He will be strong for us in the future. We remember God when we remember what He's done for us. God has a way of working in our histories and in our lives. But if we don't take time to step back and look and see, sometimes we just keep going. Or we give up, and we give up too soon because we don't remember. Because we don't understand. Because we forget. The world has a very short memory. Are you aware of that? The world has a very short memory about some things. Other things it holds on to forever. But has a very short memory about some things. We can't afford to have a short memory with God. We have to remember God. Why? Because in the book of Revelation, It talks about those at the throne. And it says they overcame him. Who did they overcome? They overcome the enemy. They overcome the beast. They overcome Hasatan. By what? The blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. A lot of believers run around and cry out for the blood of the Lamb, the blood of the Lamb, the blood of the Lamb. And we stand on the blood of the Lamb. And yes, I stand on the blood of the Lamb shed for me on the doorpost so that I could get out of bondage. At the same time, there is a place for the word of our testimony. There's a place for the word of our testimony. We've got to understand our testimony. We've got to understand where God has brought us, because God doesn't want to stay here. He's getting ready to take them into the land. But before he does, he reminds them of what they've come through. He reminds them. Sometimes I look at all this and I go, Lord, I want to quit. And he reminds me. And he shows me what I've come through. And he says, but you can't go back to those places. Where would I go? What are we going to go back to? More wandering in the wilderness? I don't want to. You can't go back to Goshen, because Goshen was a figment of their imagination. Really, it was Ramesses they left. We can't go back. We have to go forward. A couple weeks ago, we were doing our prayer night on the Fast of Tammuz, on the beginning of the 3 weeks. And God had me do a circle with a flag. And he has me do weird things. I don't understand it all, but you know what? I'm not sure that Hosea understood what he had him do either. Neither did any other prophets back then, and I don't understand it. I'm not anything like them, but God has me do strange things, so I do it. Okay? He had me take the flag and he had me go in circles. And at one point I wanted to turn around and go the other direction, because my hip was starting to hurt on the one side. You know, if you go in a circle long enough, you're wearing out one side, right? And I wanted to go the other direction. It was, no, you can't do that. And I stopped and I looked and I realized I was going clockwise. I was going clockwise. He said, you can't stop and go back. You're not allowed to go back. You have to go forward. And that's kind of where we're at. We can't go back. We have to go forward. In the going forward, there's other directions that God gives, and he gives more of those towards the end of the book, and I'm not going into those right now. I just want us to remember that when we're going, we have to go forward. Sometimes we have to remember what he's done to help us in that motion. So I want you to take some time this week and think about, take some time today. It's Shabbat. It's a good day to do it. To spend the day with God, not just the morning, but ask him, what have you brought me through? What's my Ramesses? Where was the water bitter for me? What's my Sinai? Where did I sit at the base and hear your word and hear your voice for the first time? What have I come through? And God, if you brought me from there, where are you taking me? Because he's got a promised land. And he's taking us there. He's taking us there. And if we will keep going, and we will remember the battles from the victory standpoint, the things we've learned, not just the failures, but the things we've learned. Because what is it? Einstein that was said, there is no failed experiment if you learned from it. It's not a failure if you've learned something. Have I learned? Did I learn what God wanted me to learn? Am I ready to go forward? I'm ready. I'm ready. Will I feel that way tomorrow morning when I wake up? I don't know. But I know it now, and I know it today, and I will remember it. You know, if we sang a song, where you go, I go. God never asks us to go where His Spirit isn't directing us. During all of the wanderings, during all of these trials, before they got to the Promised Land, there was always the cloud by day, the fire by night. The Spirit of God went with them everywhere. They didn't camp where they wanted. They camped where the Spirit of God directed. When the Spirit sat down, they sat down. When the Shekinah of God lifted, they packed up. And they followed. When He went down, they sat down. He directs us. Let Him direct you to the next place. Let Him direct you to the next place. Father, thank You for today. Thank You for Your word. Thank You for what You showed me. Thank You for a reminder. Let us... Thank You. Sometimes it's all I can say. And I ask that Your words ring true for people. That You minister to hearts. Father, that those that are not here with us today, I ask that You would minister to them, that You would give them peace, give them rest. I ask for healing for Janie especially. Fathers, we would love, we depend on her so much. Thank You, Father. Restore, repair, and bring us to the next step. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, our Lord and our Savior. Amen and amen. Tonight is Birkat HaKodesh for the month of Av. Now what that means is the blessing for the month. Okay? It just means blessing the month. And we're going to gather and we're going to talk. We're going to have a meal. And everybody brings something to share, whatever. And we do this the Sabbath before the new month. The new month begins, I think Monday night. I'll have it written down. I don't remember right at the moment. My brain is kind of fried. It gets that way. But we're going to be talking about the month of Av and the paradox that is that month. Because it's a very paradoxical month. It's a very different month. It's been a hard one to get a hold on what the message from God about this month is. But He's given me some interesting things, and I'm looking forward to sharing them after we eat. And I'm hoping that other people are able to come. And I want you to all look at the wall. Look at the wall. Craig, you ought to show the wall. I want you guys to see what Janie has done for us. For our worship times and our dance times and our celebration times. The tools that we have displayed and available, and the reminders in the Hebrew words. Of all the different words that in our English Bibles are translated, praise the Lord. They're translated praise or worship, but they all mean so many different things. So take time to look at those, to study it out, and to enjoy the gifting that we've had shared with us. Hopefully we'll see people tonight, and then we have, after that, the Fast of Av, which is on Tuesday the 5th, and on Thursday night the 7th, we have a very special event coming up, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to be really enjoyable. We have Messianic Dance Camp. Ralph and Mindy Seda of Messianic Dance Camps International will be here. It's Thursday night, August 7th. And they're going to join us here, and we're going to move all the chairs back and fit in as many people as we can. And they're going to teach us some basic Hebraic dancing. So if you've not learned any before, or if you want a refresher course, or if you want to just come and join the fun and help. Because people are first learning and could use all the help we can get, right? But Ralph and Mindy Seda will be here, and we're going to have a good time of dance and praise and worship. And we've had them here before with us, and we've always enjoyed it, and I think we're going to enjoy that night again. Then on the 10th, which is the following Sunday, is Lev Hillel in Redmond, Oregon. And a couple of us are driving up, and if anyone wants to follow us or go up with us, please let me know so we can make those arrangements, all right? And that's going to be a fun time, too. So we got a lot coming up this month. A lot. And then we're going to hit the fall festivals, and we'll hit the ground running. And it's going to be a good year. We're moving into a good year. Good year. The Lord bless you.
The Lord bless you.
And keep you. The Lord make His face to shine upon you. The Lord bless you.
The Lord bless you.
And keep you. The Lord make His face to shine upon you. And be gracious unto you. And be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up His countenance on you and give you peace. Shabbat Shalom.